Okay, we'll get this right one day, won't we? Okay, we've just put an article up, and I want to start by apologising to a few elders who've complained recently because we're putting up articles about the rings. And after I put 2 articles up recently, I promised we wouldn't put another one. We've got other stuff we can do on, I agree. But unfortunately, there's 2 that were analysed and we got results back, and we've got 2 more that could be even more sensational than the results we got off these 2. But such was the incredible science associated with one of these artefacts, we've got no choice. We just had to put it up. And here's the trick. Anyway, there's something else coming up that is even more amazing than the one we're going to talk about right now. Now, I've written an article about it. I've tried to keep this one shorter than normal. It's only 3,500 words. And I've kept it down to 2 artefacts, and I've got to make the point. For the elders who feel, why are we doing this? I want to make this point. Remember, both these things we've done and all the Lemurian rings come from Angkor Wat. And I say Lemurian rings because if you go back 10, 12,000 years when Lemuria was in existence, the very northern port was Angkor Wat. And the very southern part of it is Australia. And the only part that's left behind in a large area is Australia. So the reason we're doing this, and as we've said before, and I'm going to say again, Roz has found this out, and it's been proven. I've seen videos where people have said this. The villagers around Angkor Wat will tell you that before the Chinese, there were dark people that looked like Australian original people, and they were giants. And that's why these rings and all these things we've got are the way they are. But let's get on to the one today, and I'm going to hold it up. I'm going to hold it up as it used to look, and it looks something like this. This is what we've got here. I hope I'm holding that properly. Now a bit has come away, and you can see there, that's the piece that's come away. You can see the back. There's another one like that, and originally they joined up like this. Now a piece was broken off when Roz bought this, and she got it back, and that her husband David broke it, and actually all he did was try and work out how to put it on your ring, because on your ear, because I want to show you something. That's my ear, and this weighs close to 100 grams. If you did get it on your ear, the only thing you'd be wondering is how long before the ring tears and it pulls away and your ear starts to bleed, because it's so heavy. I mean, look at the size of this, and this piece was on here too. The other question is, how do you put this on your ear? I don't know. Anyway, it was for sale in the same site where we got the Lemurian ring number 2, which is not here at the moment, but that don't matter because it's around. Now, what's unusual about this ring? So many things. Remember, it's old. It's really old. It comes from Angkor Wat. It was found during the Vietnam War. It was found by metal detectors by the Americans. Maybe they were looking for mines. I don't know. I think they're just looking for anything they can take. Anyway, it's there. That's the past. That don't matter. I don't pass judgment on that. They've come back home. And that's my point. They've come back to Lemuria. Might not be in the same spot, but in the same place. And they represent Lemuria. They don't represent anything else but that. So, what's inside them? Number 1, we take them all to the same place. Best machine in the country. And bless these people. They don't want to be known who they are, but I want to make it clear we really appreciate the fact they do it for nothing. And they're doing more of these ones that have come through because they're turning up everywhere. We can barely keep up. In this one, for the first time ever, 41.8% has no register. Now we have another ring, or a piece of jewellery, which we've spoken about. They've looked at the best laboratory in the country, Southern Cross, over there, just not far from where I am. Graham Lancaster supervised the analysis, and we had 24% unidentified. This is 42%. So that's a big start. 42%, huge start. So we're off to a beginning there. But there's more in this, ladies and gentlemen. 6 of the elements in this one, and by the way, every other ring we've got has an orichalcum base. Sometimes they take a little bit out, sometimes they leave it complete, sometimes they add one thing. Of course, the Lemurian ones, they'd always add tin. So with Lemurian ring number 2, it is all orichalcum and a little bit of tin, 1.12%. That's how they do it. But this particular piece, all the others are copper. Copper's the main ingredient, goes on your finger, and as you know with copper, you get a green mark there because the copper is the part that infuses the whole ring into your body. That's the deal. You want the magic, it gets inside you, and that's how you get it. It works that way. And believe me, good and bad, that's the way it gets in. This one has no copper. So it's not meant to be a ring that goes around the finger, and obviously isn't. I don't know where it goes, but it's got a completely different setup. But here's where it gets interesting. 6 of the elements in this end in UM, and I've looked them up. And they're all found from 1803 or through to today at different times. Now I can tell you one of them, Gallium. That's the big IUM. That's the one that doesn't make any sense. 6.89%. It's the third biggest element. After the mysterious 41.8%, which we believe is off-world because it's not on the earthly periodic table. Then you've got some iron. Now in all the other rings there, the iron is always less than 1%. Here it's 41%. So we've got something different going on here. The gallium is interesting. Number one, because gallium it cannot be found. It was discovered in 1875. It is a byproduct. You can't pick it up out of the ground and throw it in because it ain't there. It's part of something else, and they're trace elements. This is 6.89%. The trace elements you'll find in other elements, and one of the main things, gallium is found in 2 things in particular. And when it gets to those things, it permeates the boundaries to get inside. And those 2 things are aluminium and iron. So why is there 6.89% gallium? Because there's iron there. There's a different deal going on here. This is a chemist, by the way. There's no mind for this stuff. It's chemistry. Now, found in 1875 as a byproduct, it can only be found through processing other things, and it comes out of it. And we first worked that out then. Let's take another one now. I think there's one there called, it might be rhodium or might be ruthenium. One of them was discovered in about 1814 or something like that. But it wasn't used. By the way, this one is a catalytic converter. It's part of that deal. It does that. And there's quite a few that do things like that. 3 of them of these elements are catalytic converters. But with this gallium, this was the other one, by the way, it was used in 1976 by Volvo for the first time ever. 1976, this element was used industrially. But it's in the ring. Now, why are these things in the ring? Palladium, platinum, what are they doing in there? What I can tell you is we've noticed there's 2 things in there, rhodium and rudendium, which are hardeners. And they only harden 2 things. That's platinum and Pleiadian. Is that a coincidence they both went together? And remember, none of this stuff we're talking about was known when Angkor Wat was around. That's the rule. But this is what we've got in here. So we're finding something stunning here in this particular ring. Yes, 41.8% of the ring is not identified on this planet, doesn't belong here. But if you think this particular machine is deficient, I didn't know about most of these elements, but I looked it up, and I can tell you what 3 of them have got next to them. They've got the word rarer, the words rarer, ultra rare, and very rare. The machine had no trouble picking them up. Found them easy. The ones that are quite rare found particularly easy. That's why it's worth so much money, because it finds everything on the standard periodic table. Well, this ain't on it. And the things that are on it shouldn't be there. So what have we got here? Is we got a ring, earring, or whatever it is. It's big, made for giants. That's obvious. And the locals tell us giants were there. Angkor Wat was part of Lemuria. It's all making sense to me. And what we've got now is evidence of chemistry and the interbalance. There's a lot more about this too, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about what we're doing with our next conference in a sec. But we'll go into more detail. But you're going to find that all the way through in all these rings, they know what these things do. You put lead into one ring and you weaken it. So what do they put in? Titanium. You put 35% zinc in another ring and you weaken it. So what do they put in? Chromium. And this time around, they don't put in 1 IUM, they put in 6. Now, all these IUMs weren't found until recently, but they're all found at Angkor Wat. And then we've got, of course, the rings that are found in Australia, like the Atlantis ring number 1 and Atlantis ring number 3, which is only turned up 2 days ago. And we're dealing with that one right now. And we know it's from Atlantis, and we'll talk more about that once we've got it analysed, and we'll be having that done very quickly too. And we know in advance, because it comes from Atlantis, and we know that because of the symbols there, we know there'll be 5 elements in there. It'll be copper, zinc, lead, nickel and iron. And the lead, nickel and iron will be a trace element, and they will be less than 1%, and the rest of it will be copper and zinc. We already know that, but we're going to get the machine to check on it, and if we do, that will mean by now that we've got nearly 10 of these damn objects, and all of the chemistry is wrong. The base part of this is mythical, right? Remember, orichalcum is mythical, but all the things that have been added on are not mythical. They exist, but they can't exist 5,000 years ago. They just can't, unless the whole of our history is wrong. And that's what we're getting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to be doing on Sunday or Saturday, depending if you're in America or elsewhere in the world, is we're going to do our next online conference. There we're going to be talking about, obviously, this stuff that's just turned up, and the potential that one of the 2 things that have been measured might be measured on Saturday, and I might get it Saturday afternoon. If not, it'll be on the next one. So it's going to be an update of that. Our role in this, I mean, it's interesting that these things have come in now, because our role this time is to present 14 pieces of raw evidence, of which 13 have been analysed by top scientists in Australia. And they all tell the same story. They tell me 3 things. They tell me there was aliens technology here, because we've got 2 things now that aren't identified. Not 1, but 2. And they come from different places and were analysed different ways. One electronically, one in the chemically done in the laboratory at Southern Cross Uni. So they've been done differently. So you can't say it's a fault of one measuring technique, because we've got 2 different types, and both have objects that don't fit. So that's done. That's done and dusted. We're going to show you the skull of the Pleiadian. The government knows about it. We all know that a skull that doesn't have a forehead, that goes backwards like that at 180 degrees and then runs back and flares out, that's not us. We're going to be talking about all that, so that when Klaus Stirner, Michael Tellinger and Dr. Rita Louise is going to talk about something, it's going to, presentation is called History is a Myth. By the time you get to those particular points of view that the others are going to give, after you finish with us, and we've given you 14 pieces of pure evidence, you know that the whole thing is wrong. And you will know what Michael and what Klaus and what Rita is saying is correct. Now, we've done this a different way, because we're so convinced we've won the argument about Pleiadians and aliens, and also the fact that this prophecy on the 21st of December, touch wood, if it does come off, is part of this. We're finding the evidence. We found the Pleiadians for you. We found Atlantis. We found Lemuria, which is far more important. We found that. All those things are there. We've proved the original people were the first people, and we've got so much evidence now that anyone that argues and says we're wrong, well, I've got to say to you straight up, mate, we've got dozens of pieces of evidence. The rocks, again, some of those have got technology that doesn't fit. We've got the bones, we've got the genes, we've got every type of scientific evidence you're supposed to have. We're going to present that on that day so that people are clear that when we talk about this prophecy about aliens coming, the Pleiadians, well, we're going to show them to you. We're going to show you their bones, and we're going to show you their metal, and we're going to show you their rocks, and we're going to show you their story. And when we talk about the fact there's a change ahead and there are sacred crystals that can do that, well, we're going to give you all the dressing around that. I mean, it's up to the ceremony if it's going to happen. My take is if the ceremony takes place, and there's a question mark for that, but if it does take place, I'm pretty damn sure it is going to happen. Because they're going to be using crystals to repower the earth. And what I do know is what destroyed the earth in earlier days was the wrong use of crystals by the Atlanteans. Now what if the Lemurians had the right use of crystal? And that crystal that they used in Lemuria, which is the centre, which Uluru would still be the centre of, what if it's still ready to go again? And that's the whole point of this. It's starting to make sense to us. And by the way, the second artefact we're looking at is a massive crystal called Alethys or something like that. It's supposed to be a crystal that is held by the angels, that connects with the other side and has the wisdom of the past and the future within it. Why is that one turning up too? And by the way, that's got the normal orichalcum base, but they've made a big difference there. They've taken the zinc out and they've put in 35% tin. Now normally the tin signature is 1 to 2%. I think this one is so obviously Lemurian, and you don't need copper as much this time. You don't need to infuse in because it's a crystal that has the energy. So that particular one's not an infuser as much, it's more the crystal that has the energy. And now we've got that particular crystal which is supposed to be sacred, and then we've got the other ones we're talking about. It's too many coincidences. So this conference we're doing, the most important part of it is that Evan is going to be reading a statement put out by the elders for all of the people of this planet, what they're supposed to do on that day. And it's quite long. Evan's going to take about 5 minutes. It's quite detailed. And this is what they've said, because they don't want you at the rock. They've said that at the start. It's full. Okay, yes, we've got to go there, and yes, there's something we have to supply. That part's the deal. But we don't have the ceremony. We don't have the songs. We don't have the language. We're there to assist indirectly. But for everyone else, you can assist directly. And there's been very specific. Evan will read out on the day. But what I can tell you is this. If you think that you can do meditation by maybe watching the TV and going out and having a few drinks, and then at 9:01 saying, oh look, I'll just pop outside and I'll have a bit of a meditate and pop back in. Don't pop out. I was quite interested in what the elders have said. They actually see this as a day-long event. They want you to prepare. Look, I play tennis, and if I'm going to play in a tournament, I'll warm up and I'll train for a while before I play in a tournament. Still play occasionally. If I don't get cursed and get enough energy back, which I'm starting to. That's how I do it. And I train each day. I still do. I want to keep fit. Well, they want you to train a bit for that day. They don't want you to walk in and say, okay, I'm going to start doing this now. They want you to prepare, and they've given you very specific instructions. And what I have found out that did surprise me that I didn't know, because it's a drip effect, we get bit by bit, is that they want cells in other continents to sing those lines up too. It's happening everywhere. I thought it was just in Australia it was going to bounce away. No, it has to be fed in the other places too. So everyone we're speaking to from overseas, you've got somewhere on your landmass that's sacred, and that's where you should be facing. Not Uluru. You go and find your own sacred place, and that's what you've got to face, because when it gets turned on, apparently it needs energy there to get it started up too. That's something we didn't know. We only just got that piece of information, and we'll share that on the day. And we always will talk about the prophecy in every one of these things leading up to the 21st of December. Now the last one we do in December will be all blackfellas. They'll be talking about this just as we finish this off. And we had a lot of original people on here. I mean, well, I am too, so they're always going to be there. We're always part of this. And we have to be, because this part is for everyone. So if you can, please, ladies and gentlemen, join us. Join us on that online chat, and then find out about the next part of this, which is what comes next. That's why Michael Tellens is speaking towards the end of the day, because I want him to talk about Imbuto. If we get on to him, I hope we do, but it's always a mystery when you go into other continents, but we've been in contact. It should be okay. We've got a couple of practice runs. Should work. And then after that, after we've done Imbuto, which is a structure, yes, I know, in Australia, it's not the same as African, but I can tell you, I've had a look at what Michael's on about. It's 98% the same, and we can change the bits we want to change. There's no drama. No one owns them. It's just a structure to work from, and it works. And it's been going on for a while. It's a good start when you've got something concrete in front of you, and you can talk to people who've been living this way for a while, and people have. It makes it easier. But the second part of this The second part is that once you've got the structure right, what if you put the wrong people in? And at the moment, there's a problem with one of the two genders more than the other. No gender's perfect, but I've got to tell you, males have lost it a bit. We need a bit more help. We need some role models. And we need models for the future. And remember, when this change takes place, the world becomes matrilineal and the women lead. And we can suggest, we can stand by them, we can assist, we can protect, we can do all those things, but we forfeit the right to make decisions because we screwed up. That's the way it is, and you can't argue with that because that's what they've all told me. I've heard that from everyone, so that's the deal. So in that sort of setup, the question you've got to ask yourself in the meantime is, what can you do? Number one, join us on the conference, find out what's going on. But number two, have a look at how males should be in the future. And I picked a person out of all the men I've met that I think is the perfect role model. And that's Harry's. He's a lifesaver from Bondi Rescue, been there for 20 years. Probably a lot of people know him. He's the guy that always smiles. But there's so much more to him. And I figured out that all of us need role models in different ways. When it comes to being the proper sort of male for the future, man, I'm not even close. I mean, I'm from the buffhead variety. Males that never. I mean, Harry's is a beautiful man simply because everyone he meets, he wants to love them. He just wants to give love to everyone. And when he's on the phone to me at the finish, he says he loves me. I can't say that back. I said that once and he said, you will one day. And I think, maybe I will, you know. We just are so locked in, man. We're just so, I've got so many things that are wrong. I just figure that after Michael's talking about the structure, I need to talk to the person that's the best example of how men should be in that structure so it works best. I think some men, the way we are, we're not going to get in that structure, and I'm including myself in there because, man, we've got some issues. We really have, and I'm not going to go and self-incriminate myself right now, but anyway, that's the way we finish it. So please join us. It's there's 2 more to go after that. Leads up to the last one in December, but we're getting closer, and all being well, after December the 21st, there's a way out of this, and there has to be. It's just not working out the way it should.